How you doing, everybody? It's still Wednesday the 3rd of February 2010. It's just after tea time. And I just want to talk to you about a book review that I read yesterday by accident. I came across this by accident. I didn't even know it existed. The book was published seemingly about 2 months ago. And the book was published by a Polish Monsignor within the Roman Catholic Church. And how I came across it was I was doing some work. I'm doing a little series at the minute on the history of the Catholic Church. And I was just looking up book reviews and various things. And I saw this. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And then I thought it was a skit. I thought it was written by some nutter, but it's not. It's written by the guy who's the main advocate for John Paul II to become a saint. Now, before I start this, I just want to qualify something. I don't give a flying shit about John Paul II or whether or not he is or is not sainthood material. I don't really care. It is not going to affect me in the slightest. However, I do care when large numbers of people are deluded and only one side of any story comes out. Okay? And when you read the biography of this man, John Paul II, the issues that I am going to raise, none of them are raised in it. It's all one way. This man's wonderful, he's great, and he should be a saint immediately. That's what the general thrust of the biographies are. Okay? So my little thing is there to offer a balance. It's the yin and I'm the yang. For what it's worth. My thing's not worth an awful lot, but I'm going to give it anyway. Okay. This fella, John Paul II, was the Pope for nearly 26 years. Huge amount of time if you think about it. It's a quarter of a century. He ruled the most powerful social stroke religious organisation in the world by far. A powerful financial organisation as well, and also a powerful political organisation. He ruled it with a rod of iron. Very right wing in his views. Just unbelievable stuff for a man in the late 20th century. Anyway, when you read his biography, it tells you all the headings are there. Like you read this and you think, my God, this man's awesome, man. How do you hear this? They go on about his teachings, his pastoral trips, 129 countries, the Pope and the Catholic Church, or the Catholic youth, relations with other religions, his role in the fall of communism, his assassination attempts, his social and political stances, his attitude about liberation theology, about the Iraq War, about evolution, about sexuality, and about health. They tell you at the end of his life, the good and the mighty within the Catholic Church were calling him John Paul the Great. When he died, the crowds were in St. Peter's Square were chanting, Santo Subito, saint immediately. That's what it all tells you here. So, I want to raise just 6 or 7 little points. Alright? And one of them is relates to an insidious organisation called Opus Dei. And Opus Dei is one of the most powerful lay organisations in the world today, and it's on a par with Freemasonry. Okay, and it's most devious in the extreme, and some of the social behaviour these people get up to it's seriously questionable. All right, we'll deal with that in a minute or two. Also, and the only reason I raised the thing about the Opus Dei is he was the one who brought it into the church officially and give it the seal of approval, give it like the maximum seal of approval. So it's the #1 lay organisation within the Catholic Church today, now, and will stay that way for the foreseeable future. Okay. Then I want to ask about what's this man's role of women in the Catholic Church? Up until he came along, I understood that the strictures about women and all that had all been relaxed, and it's all gone on the hill, all put in the back room now. There's no talk about women priests or women ever been into the mainframe of the Catholic Church. They're in the back room now. They're still in the back room, and they're going to stay there. Then his attitude about sexuality, specifically homosexuality, and about marriages among homosexuals and lesbians. What's all that about? This is the 24th century we live in. Like what is it really all about? what is like what adults engage in consenting adults? What has that got to do with churches or anything else? What has that got to do with anything? Then I want to raise two things which are seriously questionable things. First is, what was this man's role in the Archbishop Paul Marcinkus affair? What was all that about? Interpol issued arrest warrants for the Pope's personal bodyguard, Archbishop Paul Marcinkus, who at that time was also the head of the IOR, the Vatican Bank, and for two other Vatican officials. And when they arrived at the Vatican and they saw the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State went and spoke to the Pope, the Secretary of State was told by the Pope, the Polish Pope, they were not giving anybody out to Interpol. And Archbishop Paul Marcinkus lived in the Vatican for 5 years, could not leave the Vatican for 5 years. He'd 9 charges, major charges, all relating to his involvement in P2, and the Vatican law. The P2 is the most powerful Masonic lodge in the world at the time, which was based in the Vatican. And his role as chairman, as the boss, the CEO of the Vatican Bank, the IOR, in laundering billions of US dollars for the CIA and for the Nicaraguan Contras to do with drug money. I mean, it's unbelievable stuff, this. And this Pope, this man, hid this man. Imagine the police coming to your door tomorrow morning. You lived in a big house, alright, in loads of rooms in it, say it had 100 rooms, and you knew up in one of those rooms the police couldn't come across the door, alright, for whatever reason, doesn't matter, just technically they couldn't enter your house, and you kept a man in there for 5 years that you knew had major crimes to answer against. Major, I'm not talking about small crimes, I'm talking about major crimes, international crimes on a huge scale. And you had him for 5 years, and then at the end of the 5 years you got him out to America because he was an American citizen and he couldn't be extradited from America. Some saint, well. Then, what about his role in the Rupert Murdoch affair? It's the best, one of the best ones of all. What about it? An Australian Baptist decides all of a sudden he wants to give $10 million to the Archbishopric of Los Angeles, headed up by a man called Cardinal Roger Mahony. And in return for giving the $10 million, they make him a papal knight, to fly the knighthood specially from Rome to LA, signed off by this Polish Pope. And the man isn't even a Roman Catholic, and he's the biggest pornographer in the world. The biggest pornographer in the world, and still is. But he's a papal knight. And by the way, they say the 10 million, the bulk of the 10 million went off to pay off the families whose children had been sodomized and raped in Los Angeles by the paedophile priests in Roger Mahony's parishes. Okay, that'll give you an idea what the money went for. And then the final thing is, well, the final two things are, what about when he came to Ireland? What about it? Not a word about all the rape and sodomizing and abuse that was going on in the gulags, the children's gulags that I had in Ireland here, run by the orders that were under his command, under his control. What about that? Thousands and thousands and thousands of children for about 50 or 60 years. Not a word about that. He came, he stayed here for days, I don't know how long it was for, 3 or 4 days, whatever how long he was here for. Not a word about it. And he flew out, still not a word about it. Okay. And then a final thing. Did you know that this man, when he was alone at night, did you know that this man was into self-flagellation with belts? That's what it tells you in this book. That's what I read yesterday in the review. I'm going to get the book. I haven't got the book. But I put the wee link up. There's the link here. You can have a look at it. This man's into self-flagellation. Tells you, this is what it says here in one of the psychiatrist's handbooks here about self-harm. Self-harm is listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders as a symptom of personality disorder. So the whole thing squares a lot of circles, doesn't it? You can see where these boys are coming from. Serious stuff. Some saint, some pope.